What's up guys, welcome back to another mid video. Today I'm going to tell you guys everything that I look for when I'm buying an RX-7 FC. This is the third RX-7 FC that I've owned, so I would say that I'm pretty comfortable with knowing what to look for when I'm buying an RX-7. Quick disclaimer, this is only going to be for NA cars. Buyer's guides for turbo cars are obviously going to be different. So we'll jump straight into the video. Obviously, the most important part about buying an RX-7 FC or any car in general is going to be the engine. With the rotary engine, it is slightly different than your normal piston engine, and there are certain key things you need to always look for. I always start off with the compression. Compression in these engines are slightly different than a piston engine, so the best way to find the compression of your motor is to get a rotary compression tester. Now, if you don't have a rotary compression tester, there's still a couple things you can do to get a general idea of how healthy your motor is. So assuming that your engine can start and turn over, you're gonna get two things from how it cranks. You should be looking for a consistent and a really strong pulse as it's cranking. If your engine can't turn over for some reason, that is a sketchy sign and it could be a sign of low compression. If it's not turning over and the pulsing is super quick, it could be a sign that your engine is actually flooded. So when your engine is flooded, it just means that there's too much fuel in the combustion chamber for it to actually turn over. And that's when you want to start the deflooding process. It's really simple. All you got to do is open your fuse box right here, and you're going to pull out the green EGI fuse, and then you're going to go inside the car and you're going to crank it for 10 seconds with your foot all the way to the ground. And then you're going to do that 3 times. Once you've finished deflooding, obviously check for the pulse again. And if it still can't turn over, that's usually a pretty negative sign that you want to take into consideration. The way the car idles is also a sign of how the compression is. If it's struggling to idle, it could be a mix of a lot of things, but low compression could also be a factor. If you're able to drive the car, make sure you do that. Obviously, a car with high compression should allow you to feel the power and the torque within the car. If it's feeling underpowered in any way, take that into consideration. So after getting a general idea of your compression, the next thing that's important to me is checking the oil system. So obviously you want to pull out the dipstick first and just check the quality and condition of that oil that's been sitting inside this motor. And the second thing you want to do is check the OMP. The OMP is the rotary engine's natural mechanism to lubricating the internals. The OMP functions by injecting oil into the combustion chamber. This means the OMP is responsible for the health of your internal parts. So the OMP is the next thing you're gonna check. You can locate the OMP right under the water pump on the front cover, and it'll be a small mechanism with some oil lines connecting to it. A lot of times, rotary owners end up deleting this because they end up breaking or malfunctioning, and then it just becomes an inconsistency. Therefore, a lot of rotary owners will only rely on pre-mixing their car. However, I'm a big believer that if you have an OMP or not, you should always be pre-mixing. So try to figure out if your car has an OMP. If it's working or it's not working, make sure that the owner has always pre-mixed it. I also personally like to check the oil cooler and the oil cooler lines. A lot of the times the oil cooler lines can seep oil, and that's not a good sign. And then you also want to check if your oil cooler is damaged in any way. Lastly, one of the biggest components of your oil system will be your oil seals. Those are seals that sit inside the engine, and sometimes they can go bad. The easiest way to check if your oil seals are dead is to turn the car on, and if the exhaust is putting out a bunch of smoke with a slight blue tint to it, chances are your oil seals are dead. The next thing I'm looking at when I'm checking out an RX-7 is gonna be the cooling system, because one of the biggest threats to a rotary engine is overheating. So the first thing you're gonna do is check the radiator and the water pump for any potential signs of leaks. Then you're also gonna check the hoses and the caps on both the filler neck and the radiator itself. This right here is the coolant filler cap, and there is an O-ring under this neck. A lot of times if that O-ring is shot, coolant can seep through from under this neck. That is something you should always look for. And obviously, you're gonna wanna ask the owner if the car has ever been overheated. Because if it's ever been overheated, it takes a lot of life out of your engine. Just like the oil seals, there are also coolant seals, or also known as coolant jackets. If the car has been overheated, chances are those jackets could have blown. The best way to tell if your coolant jackets are blown is to turn the car on, and if there's heavy white smoke coming out with a sweet smell, chances are they're probably dead. Something common for a lot of rotary owners to do is to delete their emissions. A lot of the times, these cars don't pass smog, so a lot of rotary owners just end up ditching all the emissions components. So when I'm looking at an RX-7, I like to know whether they've been deleted or not. The best way to find out is you'll see a bunch of block-off plates that are on the engine. This right here is the BAC valve, and a lot of times when deleting emissions, you can take this off, but this is really important in maintaining your idle. So I always look for this and make sure that it's on. And overall, you want to give a thorough look throughout your engine bay. I check the vacuum lines, the coolant hoses, and the oil hoses behind the block. And you just want to get a general idea if anything has been leaking. The last thing I normally look for is just rust. Anything else with the body can always be repaired, obviously within reason. The main places you want to look for rust are under the car, the floor pans, behind the seats, and the rear hatch. So there you guys have it. There's a little deeper look into what I look for when I'm buying an RX-7 FC. Obviously, there's going to be more or less that you should look for. I'm just giving you guys a general idea of what I specifically look for in an FC. For example, some people look for AC or power steering. People want to make sure the pop-up headlights work. The transmission is a big one too. You want to make sure that the trans works. If you guys want a deeper and more thorough breakdown of what to look for when buying an RX-7, let me know in the comments and I can also do that. And we're back in the room, and this is the end of the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you made it to the end, thank you. Once again, we got more content coming, so please hit the subscribe button and leave a like on this video. Also, let me know what else you guys want to see with the RX-7. Until then, I'll see y'all. Catch you in the next one.